So you want to sell at an artist alley, but you don't know where to start. Don't worry, I got you. I recently went to Megacon Orlando and got so much information about running an artist alley table. Across the next few videos, we're going to talk about the art that was sold there, ways to set up your display, pricing, and so much more. In the first video of this series, let's talk about the overall vibe of the artist alley and the type of art that was sold there. How was the artist alley? Compared to last year, they did a really good job organizing everything. So looking at the map, you can see that they broke it up into multiple sections that just made it a little bit easier to navigate, because let me tell you, navigating everything last year was a huge pain. So I'm glad that they chose to break it up into multiple sections. So as far as the location is concerned, I feel like it was a bit of a blessing and a curse. It's a good thing in the sense that you can get potential traffic to your table. Maybe someone sees some artwork of like a fandom they're really into and they, might get a little distracted, go to your table, buy something, and then continue on to the autograph area. Maybe they're walking to the celebrity autograph area and a piece of fan art catches their eye and they're like, oh, I love that person. I'm literally about to go see them. They could walk up to your table, purchase the art print, and then they'll go and get that signed by the celebrity guest. However, it can be a curse, especially for days like Saturday. A lot of people were in the convention center. This led to a lot of congestion in the walkways. If people don't want to take the main walkways to the autograph area, guess where they're also going to go through? The artist alley. So now you have more people in the artist alley. They're not interested in purchasing what you have. They just want to go get their autograph. They just want to go meet their celebrity star. So now you have this congestion of people who want to buy from the artist and people who don't want to buy. So a tip for your artist alley table: if you're going to an event like Megacon or one where they assigned you a table number and they put it on a map like the one I showed you earlier, have that number visible somewhere on your booth. It can be written on a sheet of paper and it's physically on your table. You can put it on your display. If you have your table number visible, it's going to be a little bit easier for them to find you, because then all they have to do is they can write down that number, take a picture of it, and then check the map and go, okay, cool, artist A1000, she was in this row, we got to go this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, do a flip, a cartwheel, and then we're there. Another thing you can do to help people find your table is to post your table number on your social media. So if you have an Instagram, a TikTok, a Twitter, I'm not calling it X, and so on, you can put in like your name or your description or your bio, like, hey, at Megacon table, blah blah blah. Maybe even make like a post, like do a picture, I'm at Megacon, I'm this table. People who follow you and want to find your table at the convention know where to find you. What type of art was in the Megacon Artist Alley? Megacon is a multi-fandom event. It's going to be a wide range of objects, whether you're more of a fantasy style artist, if you're more of a fan artist, whether you do anime style art, or just homemade crafts. So if you do like crochet, plush dolls, sewing, jewelry, clay figurines, and everything else in between. There's a wide variety of things that you can sell at Megacon Artist Alleys. I'd say for every 3 to 4 tables that were mostly fan art, there was one table that was original art. Considering how big this artist alley is, that's a good amount of fan art and original art. So one type of print that I noticed was square shaped prints. There was a lot of them this year and there was a good bit of them last year. So I'm a square freak, so I love the fact that more people are using more square frames for their artwork. You can also put it up on your wall and you can literally just put it anywhere, have like 9 in a cube and still have like a nice wall display going. So I feel like for some artists, they gravitate more towards that square print. Inside these square prints were a lot of portraits, headshots, bust shots of characters, and so on. Another thing with those square prints is that they're a little bit easier to put on your displays. If you do the display cubes, they're about a 12 by 12 grid. I want to say that most of the square prints were everywhere between like 8 by 8s and 10 by 10s. So you can very easily just kind of lay those out side by side and it'll look really nice on your display board. So as far as types of art that was there, I'm going to very generically put them in 2 different categories. We're going to have your more rendered type artwork. So these are the more painterly ones. These are the ones where people do like a lot of blending and shading and highlights to where it almost kind of looks real or 3D. And then on the other side, we're going to have the more graphic style where they're a little bit simplified. Maybe they're a cartoon character, an anime character. Maybe someone has some strength in graphic design and they can create like these really cool elaborate designs and king characters and whatnot. As far as prints are concerned, a lot of them fell into those 2 categories. The more rendered, more painterly digitally, more digital blending or traditional blended. They leaned more towards fantasy characters, a lot of people's original concepts, a lot of skulls, birds. A lot of people especially leaned into the high fantasy. There was so much D&D styled, fantasy inspired, Lord of the Rings looking artwork there. On the other side of the spectrum, people use that kind of rendered style to create just really nice fan art. So yet again, the convention had a bunch of Genshin fan art, and this fell with portraits, keychains, and everything else in between. But for the people who do have that more rendered style, they used that and made a bunch of Genshin fan art or a video game character fan art, or maybe they recreated a scene from a Studio Ghibli movie, and so on. As far as the more graphical styles go, they leaned more into the kind of cutesy chibi vibe. If someone had like a really strong background in graphic design, then they'll create they just create really unique and interesting designs and illustrations by simplifying the hell out of the characters, but the composition is like, mwah. It's chef's kiss. As far as the kind of cutesy, chibi, anime, kawaii, adorable type of art style, those artists had a lot of people at their tables. If you have an art style that leans more towards that, you're definitely going to get a decent amount of traffic. It leaned more into kind of like the female and younger crowd, so like maybe high schoolers, young adults, people who are like the kind of kawaii, cutesy, pastel aesthetic. A lot of people tend to gravitate towards those styles. For the print artists, there were a lot of portrait images that they were selling. So the most common one I saw was Genshin Impact. Of course, there was a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen. I didn't actually see that much Chainsaw Man fan art going around. Is it falling out of popularity? Is JJK kicking its butt right now? I'll let y'all decide. Either from the bust up or from the waist up, and hell, some of them were just pure, just like headshots of the characters, usually kind of like a 3/4 view, and they're just kind of like smiling at you, or if they're more of a stoic character, just having like a very stoic look or something like that. I can imagine that for specific artists, portraits are easier to render out. You only have to draw from like this up, and you can render it to hell and back, or keep it as simple as you want, or make it more of like an anime shell shaded style, or you can pretty much do a lot with a little and produce more of them frequently. So as per usual, prints and stickers will always sell. From what I can tell, it looks like smaller prints are on the uptick of being sold and larger prints are on the downtick of being sold. Of course, this is going to vary between the different events that you go to. I would say that at smaller events like WasabiCon, the smaller prints will sell more because the more local, high school kids who, their parents probably gave them an allowance of $50 and said, hey, go crazy. Even though $50 is not enough to spend at an artist alley. I would know I spend too much money at an artist alley, but I digress. The smaller prints are going to sell because they're cheaper, they're easier to put in display on the walls, and I will show a clip of the smaller prints that I do have adorning my desk behind my monitors. Stickers will always sell, especially if you have like fun character designs, either original characters or fan art pieces, have your special effects on there, the glitter, the stars, the sparkles, the holograph, whatever it's going to be. At the end of the day, stickers are going to sell. Another product that was very rampant throughout the convention was enamel pins. The thing with enamel pins is that people have been upgrading their design game when it comes to these little pins. I kid you not, they'll do like a full illustration, have like 12 different colors, and it'll be twice the size of this, practically like a decorative brooch at that point. So there were two different types of enamel pins there. You either had a beautiful pen like this one that has like a very simplistic design, the line weights in the right areas, and the color palette is very simple. And then you have enamel pens like this that are a little bit more involved. The design, there's more colors involved, there's some effects going on, and you're getting almost like a full illustration. I can tell you right now, I only looked up 2 manufacturers who do enamel pens, and from what I recall, I think they cap you at about 10 to 12 colors, and then any additional colors beyond that they charge you extra for. So the fact that these artists are going ham with these enamel pen designs, making them like this big, and there's at least 15 different colors, you best believe those pens aren't cheap. If you want to make enamel pens, I'm not saying get crazy and make these crazy big designs. I can say that enamel pens, they're not dying at all. they're still very popular and people are still purchasing them because people usually like to show them off. They'll either pin them to their clothing, to their hats, their beanies. They'll display them on their Ita bags like I have here. Also, this is the artist who made the bag. Isn't it great? Isn't it amazing? I love this bag. Just so you know, enamel pins are expensive to produce. So let's pretend that this pin is almost 2 inches tall and 1.5 inches wide. I think for a pin this size, it may cost you about $3 a pin to produce. And yeah, we'll stick with $3 because you're only using 2 colors. And this is kind of like I think like a sterling silver, like a gold finish on the pin itself. So for 25 pins, $3, where calculator at? I ain't about to figure this out. That's $75 for 25 pins. Imagine if you wanted 100 pins. If it costs $75 to produce 25, it's going to cost you about $300 to produce 100. And that's just one design. What if you have multiple designs? And that's how enamel pins start to get very, very expensive. So although enamel pins can be a very nice and profitable product to sell, definitely determine whether or not you can afford the manufacturing, do a lot of testing, do a lot of research to make sure that this is a product worth selling. While I'm here, there was one table that their entire display was just nothing but enamel pins. And I think they got 2 tables. So they had 2 6-foot tables and just corner to corner enamel pins, and they broke them up into different categories, and they had like the different sections. They had their pricing deals and their little combos. It was absolutely insane. So let's talk about a few more products that we saw at the convention. Magnets. Although there were not many, and the most common forms were bookmark magnets, there was also just kind of like traditional magnets, and they were made out of felt. Tofu-tastic. This artist, they take the designs of existing characters and they simplify them into like this really kind of cute and cozy looking kind of cutout style. They simplify the design, they cut everything out in felt, and then they glue the layers together to create the character, and then they'll attach magnets. They were gracious enough to allow me to include their table in this video, so you'll be seeing the examples of what I'm talking about. I'll also be sharing examples of the items that I purchased from them. I think this is a really unique idea for a magnet because you wouldn't think that magnets would sell, but they do to some degree. And the fact that this creator came up with a really fun and interesting idea to create magnets, it stood out. The character designs are really, really good and they were super freaking cute. If you like what you see, check them out in the description below. Another thing that has had a huge influx in being sold of people selling sketchbooks. Not just any sketchbook, square sketchbooks. This is a square, right? And they all had their own custom designs on it. From what I could tell, the paper quality was very nice too. It's like pretty cute, small, little chibi sketchbook. If that's a product that you think that you can afford to manufacture, sketchbooks with custom designs could be an option for you. Next up, we have B grades and gotcha machines. So everybody and their mama had a gotcha machine. Okay, if you don't know what a gotcha machine is, imagine a gumball machine, but instead of getting a gumball, you get a little capsule, and if you open it up, there's usually something inside. What I've seen a couple of artists do is that they will sell their B grade items at a discounted price. Now, if you don't know what a B grade item is, hey there, editing Volpe here. I completely butchered the definition of B grades, so we're gonna start over. B grades for artists are products that they sell that have minor imperfections, usually at a discount. Now, these imperfections are super minor. Say a print has a couple of colors that may be off, or maybe an enamel pin that has a few specks of color in the wrong area. The product itself is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not broken. It's not damaged. It's just not up to the standard of the artist. So instead of tossing it, they just sell it at a discounted price. Now, back to the video. You're pretty much buying, I won't say defective product, but it's not to the highest quality, hence why they discount it. And that's where these little gotcha machines come in. You can siphon in on that mystery bag experience by having someone pay $5, $10, get like 2 twists on the machine and get like a little thing. So if you've ever purchased mystery bags, it's essentially the same thing. If they don't have a gotcha machine, then they're just selling their B grades as is. They'll usually separate them in like a little bucket or in their own little container that might be mildly misshapen, the colors might be different. And this doesn't just apply to enamel pins, this also applies to keychains, stickers, prints, pretty much any product that you make that you either get produced out of house or you make yourself. There's just like teeny tiny little imperfections on it, but it's still sellable. Don't just toss out those items. You can still sell them. Just make sure you let the customer know these aren't perfect. They're mildly defective in some form or fashion. So lastly, we have handmade goods. This is going to be clay-made items, jewelry, hand-sewn items, plush dolls, plushies, and pretty much anything that you can make with your hands. A popular item that I saw was a variety of jewelry. So the one person that I purchased from was Rose & Co. Jewelry. So this artist, not only was their table display really nice, they made a bunch of jewelry inspired by anime characters, video game characters, movie characters, D&D characters, and so on. The pair of earrings that I specifically bought, I honestly couldn't tell you who they were inspired by. They just look really nice and aesthetic and kind of fit my vibe, which was intentional by the artist. Even though the jewelry pieces that she made were inspired by all these different series, she designed them in a way where the average person would look at that and just go, yo, that's a fire piece of jewelry. I want to buy that. Another item that stood out to me is an art book and playing cards. They are going to be probably going to be an expensive item to manufacture, but if that's something that you're interested in, if you've always wanted to make your own set of playing cards and you have like an concept or an idea for how you want the design to look, that could be an item to look into. As far as the art book is concerned, the one in particular that I purchased focused on a concept that the creator was working on, and it has illustrations of all the different characters they made for the playing cards, along with some short explanations and stories about the different characters that she drew. Last but not least, we have our sewn goods. So of course there's plushies that people can get manufactured now. What a day and age we live in that you can manufacture your own plushies. And vinyl dolls. That was another thing that I saw. I think it's pretty freaking cool that we live in a day and age where a average person like myself can go to a manufacturer and say, hey, can I get a vinyl toy made of my character? Obviously, these are going to be more expensive options, and people who usually do more vinyl toys of their characters, they usually have like a strong character base. They might have like a short story they do. They may have a strong following, and they have like really popular characters that someone would want to have a little toy or statuette of. So that's a very unique option. But circling back to the plush items and sewing, a lot of people, if you have the ability to sew, if you can, sew together clothing garments, or oh my gosh, clothes, we'll get to that. So if you have the ability to sew your own clothes, tote bags, fanny packs, I think someone shows handkerchiefs. I know I've bought a couple of items that are just like little hairbands and headbands and scrunchies. Everybody likes tote bags these days, whether it be the canvas ones with prints on it or kind of more fun, creative ones that have like custom print designs on it that are either your own designs or maybe you made like a custom pattern that you made your own like bags with. So bags, tote bags, fanny packs. I purchased the fanny bag last WasabiCon. So if you have the ability to hand create things, try selling those things that you create. I forgot to mention apparel. Custom t-shirts are a product of the past. People will still buy t-shirts of various designs and products and graphics and everything else under the sun. But the variety of products that you can put your designs on now is huge. It's freaking huge. So one creator that I follow, 5 Booze, they made custom print button-up shirts. The one that I purchased specifically was this little murder ghost. I was waiting for it. It wasn't available during WasabiCon and they were at Mega, so I was like, hell yeah, give me all of your wares. And just to add in another item, shaker keychains. I've noticed an influx of shaker keychains becoming very popular. Everyone has been coming up with really fun and interesting ideas and concepts for these keychains, most of them being gotcha machines or claw machines. Some people have been incorporating the concept of a Tamagotchi and having little shaker keychains do that. There's just been a large variety that you can do with them, so really get creative with the designs if that's a product that you're interested in making. Now you're in for a treat if you made it this far into the video. So we've got some great advice from the lane art geek who was vending at Megacon this year. So happy for her. That's freaking huge.
Hey there, I'm Indigo Ferret Craft. Due to the busy nature of Megacon, I will be voicing for the artist's answers that Volpe couldn't record in person.
What's one piece of advice you would give to a beginner vendor?
The most important piece of advice I would give to a beginner vendor is to focus on putting yourself and your art out there. There are some vendors that present their very first Artist Alley table with a variety of different products right away, such as prints, keychains, pins, apparel, etc. And I think that's amazing. But for those that are starting very fresh, your goal is to show audiences and attendees your artwork and what you're capable of. Of course, the main goal for being in an Artist Alley is to make money. But in order to make money, people have to know who you are and what you make. When I first started tabling during WasabiCon 2021, I literally only had a small collection of mini prints, 5 sticker designs, my box of original art pieces, and a sign for commissions. My priority was just to put my art out there, and thankfully people responded in a positive light. I was fortunate enough to profit from my first ever Artist Alley experience. Making prints is one of the easiest things you can do to start tabling, and you really don't need to invest so much if you already have the resources, such as your own printer and paper, or if you have a Walgreens, CVS, or Staples nearby. So basically, not everyone will have the same amount and types of products as everyone else, but everyone has the same thing before starting: their artwork. However they choose to display said artwork is up to them though. As a beginner, showing off your artwork in any means should always be the first step.
We're going to talk about how artists set up their tables at Megacon and get some great tips from Ashes AR who sold at the convention. So how were the displays this year at Megacon? There were a crap ton of tables and everyone decorated them in a variety of different ways. And some were very tall, some were very short, and so on. Speaking of table heights, let's talk about Sleepy Tofu Company. First of all, congrats, Miss Ma'am, for getting into Megacon. That is huge, especially as someone who just started doing tables last year. Now, in the WasabiCon review video, she gave the advice of build your tables up. You don't want your tables to be sitting too low and at eye level because they can get buried in the crowd. I am very happy to say that for Megacon, she was able to build up her table display into something that is a lot more robust, a lot more full looking, and definitely stood out in her section compared to the display she had at WasabiCon. I'll put a comparison on screen so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Last year for WasabiCon, she had a table display that worked for the products that she currently had available, but it was a little bit low. You can kind of see bits and pieces of the tables on the sides of her, and they were significantly taller, and I felt like they may have consumed her presence just ever so slightly. Compared to this year at Megacon, she really built her table up. She's got her brand name up front and center, and everything just looks absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy for her that she got into Megacon, and I can only imagine that she made fantastic profits because, listen y'all, her art is amazing, okay? The fact that she's got really good choice of colors and her character designs are very poppy and energetic, just chef's kiss. I only see good things from her. As far as everyone else's displays were, everyone put up their displays well. If you're using the display cubes, as far as scale is concerned, they were about 3 to 4 cubes high, and everyone had their own unique way of displaying their work. They put their display walls up and they had their prints, stickers, keychains, plushies on the individual panels. Some displays did a little hack that you can do. You have your display stand like this. Like, say this is the front of your display stand, and then you have another piece, but instead of just standing it up, you tilt it at an angle, and from what I recall, people zip tie the 2 corners together so that it can stay at an angle, and then that way they can display their artwork at an angle, so you're not looking flat at the display and you're also not just looking straight down at a table. The table heights that they provide for you, I want to say they go a little bit above your crotch, like in between your crotch and your waist, so it's still fairly low. So if you have your products just laying flat on the table, people will have to walk up and then look like straight down to see the items that are further down. So tilting it at that angle kind of prevents them from like having to like really look down at the work. As far as decorative items go, some artists include little cutouts of their mascot. They were really smart about this. They used it to fill the negative space on their display. What one person did is that they took their character cutout and they just put it in that empty space. So that way it fills up that area and makes it feel less empty while also just kind of showing off their characters. Some artists will have their character pointer cutouts pointing at their QR code or their social media contacts. I think one had like a little chibi thing just kind of like pointing to the QR code, and another person had theirs where they just had a character just sitting on top of like the business card holder, like, yeah, you know you want a business card. Those can be kind of cute and fun ways to kind of spice up the display of your table, especially if you have mascots or recurring characters within your brand. As far as business cards are concerned, a lot of people just have like a standard business card holder and they just put their business cards on there. Some people kind of spread them out across their table. Other people will just have like a front and a back available and just ask you to take a picture of it. One guy in particular who did something that I plan on doing, there's these coffin shaped little caskets that you can get from, I think, Michael's or Joann's. They're fully functional, they can open and close. He painted his in his brand colors and he used that to display his business card. So that could be a way to tie your something as simple as your business card holder into your brand. Another thing that artists do is they have these, what are they called? They're called photo backdrop displays. It's essentially just like a long rectangle that you keep above you, and then you can hang like fabric backdrops from it. Instead of having a fabric backdrop, what they'll do is string together a bunch of their artwork and they'll hang that from the backdrop. So if someone's walking from the distance, they can go, oh, hey, what's that tall thing over there? And then that can help draw people into your table. If you have more of a cutesy or kind of a cottagecore or just kind of a cozier, warmer, fantasy-esque aesthetic, I know I just listed like 3 different aesthetics there. You can do fake leaves, you can do fairy lights, you can do flowers, things that can help kind of tie into the vibe of your brand. I saw a couple of people who had more of a cutesy or cottagecore vibe. They would do like a picnic table kind of cover for their tables, and they would wrap their displays with the fake leaves and sprinkle some fairy lights across it just to kind of like add a little oomph. As far as powering these lights, the convention themselves aren't going to provide that thing for you. You're paying for your spot. You get a table, you get some badges, and that's really about it. Everything else is up to you to set up your display. If you want to power your stuff, I recommend bringing maybe like a small generator if you can afford it. If not that, invest in some power banks so that you can power your various devices. The location that the convention is being held at, some of them offer power usage as well. Like, oh, you can get like an outlet, or they can like give you like a little power bank or something. That will cost money, but is an option. So table covers and like brand banners. So one common thing that I saw a lot of people do is they'll pick a color or a decorative fabric that matches their brand and they'll cover their table with that. Then they will do a table runner from the front to the back of the table, and their brand information will be on that little strip in the front. That was the most common thing I saw people do. I want to say it's probably the most cost effective. It's definitely a lot cheaper to produce a table runner with your branding than it would be to, say, buy like a whole 6 foot by God knows what foot table cover. Some other people, they just make a banner for themselves. The average banner size is about 5 feet by 2 feet. So what some artists will do is that they will just create their branding banner and they'll tie that to the front of the table. So that way, even though once a large group of people are there, you can't really see those banners, their branding is still apparent, at least on the front of their table, especially during the slower periods, or maybe if you're VIP and you get in a little early, you can see the different table brands before like the crowd start to rush in. Now, one thing that stood out to me last year was that someone had a flag attached to the end of their table, and it sat up pretty high, not high enough to where if you were to hit the table it would fall over, but just high enough to where it peeked over the other tables. And it was just a simple flag. I think it had like a gradient over it, 2 characters, and I think the brand name towards the bottom. And I can tell you right now, when we were walking around the convention hall last year, we kept seeing that flag from the distance, and we're just like, what that flag do? It was like a constant reminder, like, hey, that table looks interesting, we need to make sure we go see that table. And lo and behold, when we got to the aisle where we saw the flag from the distance, and we practically beelined to that table because we had seen that flag so many times that we really wanted to check out what that artist had to offer. We thought that was a fantastic idea, and that alone enabled us to like want to buy something from their table. That won't always be the case, but is a way to help you stand out in a crowd of artist alley tables. Because just as another visual reminder, this is the artist alley. Look at how many tables there were. You need to be able to stand out, and a flag could be a way to do it. Corner table. If you can afford a corner table, people decked them the heck out. Some people had really eccentric designs and ideas to decorate their table, while others were just pretty straightforward and just displayed all of their artwork. Both options are completely valid. The one that stood out to me the most was one called Catawampus Press. They utilized every inch of space for their table. I was a big dingus and didn't record the sides of their table, but as you can see from top to bottom, they made sure that all of their items were on display. They did a really good job of kind of separating, like visually separating each section of their product. They had some of their patchwork over here. They had their stickers and kind of smaller items on the table. They had more of their pins and patchwork on the other side. And what they had on the sides of their tables was more of their print. They utilized every single inch of their table, and I ended up buying the moth patch because it's my colors. How could I not buy it? Her table display alone was impressive enough to make me want to walk up to it. So if you do have the luxury of affording a larger space, either a corner spot or you can afford to buy up to 2 tables, really think about how you can display your stuff in a way that, which would either one, help it stand out in the crowd, B, decorate it in accordance to your brand, or C, come up with a nice way to display everything so it's not overwhelming. I can't tell you how many times I will walk up to an artist alley table in the past. Now this is more so in the past. I don't think I saw too many of them at Megacon, or if I did, they just went right over my head. Tables of the past put everything. It's like they vomited all their product on their board. And I get it. You want to make sure that people can see everything that you offer. The issue with that is if you've got this little 6-foot table and you've got kind of like your displays this way and this way. So you have side and a back, and it's keychain, 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 sticker, sticker, print, 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 sticker, 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 keychain, keychain, sticker, sticker, keychain, print, this, that, and the third. And it's just, the entire table is just consumed with product. Now, some people might be perfectly fine walking up to that and just going, all right, cool, a bunch of different product on what did. But I don't know, for me personally, it's incredibly overwhelming just to see so many product in my face at one time. It all just blends together and I want to walk away. I can't focus. I can't think straight. I don't have a break in any of the display to like think about what I want to purchase. So a thing to take in consideration is how you organize your display. Are you displaying it in such a way where the viewers just have a little bit of a break in between what they see? Because that is very important. If you just have like a wall of content, you have a wall of art, a wall of keychain, stickers, prints, you've got this product over here, that product over here, it can be incredibly difficult to navigate the different items. And that could turn off a customer from wanting to buy anything because they don't have any breaks in the display where they can kind of rest their eyes and just assess what they were looking at. So for example, there was one table that displayed beautiful enamel pins. Each and every single one was a piece of freaking art when I tell you that they looked so good. But one of the downsides of their table display is that even though everything was sectioned off beautifully and there were things that were color coded, because there were just so many little items all over their table, not to say that it was unorganized, it was very organized and very well done, but because of just the sheer number of product that you could look at, and there really wasn't a place for me to like kind of take a break and be like, oh God, what do I want? It did make purchasing from that table a little difficult. So that could just be a me thing, but also something that you might want to take into consideration. So as far as the items that people use for displays, everybody and their mama used some form of the storage cubes. Like they had the wire storage cubes, a lot of people use the solid color ones and so on, and they kind of build their display / storage systems with those items. So as far as the checkout window for your table, or at least that's what I'm calling it, the checkout window. It's that little gap of space that you give yourself to where you can interact with the customer and, take transactions and whatnot. It's like, I am so happy that more artists are gravitating towards having a larger checkout window. I remember many, many years ago, artists would have a tiny little window to interact with the customers and take transactions. Customers would have to hand their cash through this small little window. It just made that interaction between you and the other artist, well, at least for me, it made that interaction between the artists a little uncomfortable because I'm having to talk to you through a square. A lot of times if that window is too small, someone might just completely ignore your table because they don't think you're there. But the reality is that you're 2 steps over behind the queues, maybe grabbing some more inventory for something, because I don't know, I'm not really gonna walk up to a table that I don't think someone's there because I can't buy the things that I want because I think the person isn't there. But if your window's a little bit bigger, they can see just a little bit more into behind the table, not to where they can kind of be nosy and figure out what's going on back there, but just enough to see that someone is behind the table, because you can't make sales if people don't think you're there. So one artist that went by Rose & Co. Jewelry, they had their table set up in a way where they had cubes on the side, cubes above them, but about a 4 cube space. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, a 4 cube space in front of them. And they brought their own chair, specifically a director's chair, which set them up higher than their table so that when someone's walking by, you're practically eye level with them. Have your pricing clear and visible. I can't tell you how many tables I have gone to in the past and I've had to ask the artist multiple times, like, hey, what's the price of this? What's the price of that? What's the price of this? What's the price of that? Because they didn't have the pricing up front and available. Make sure you have signage for the pricing of the individual items. Not saying put a price tag on every single item, but hey, if you're selling, say, 8x10 prints, have a sign somewhere that says 8x10 prints are $10. Or if you're selling stickers, have a sign near those stickers that say stickers are $3 a piece. Artists do this in a variety of ways. Some will do custom sticky notes for the different sections. Others will have dedicated cutouts with their branding and colors, and they'll have it attached to each section. Some artists will make a little display board, and as they pin the different items on there, they'll put the price underneath or to the side or just somewhere on there. Just make sure that your pricing is visible. So if you want a good customer experience, they really shouldn't have to ask how much something costs. One thing for sure, it's human nature to assume that if a price isn't available, I can't afford it. So making sure that your prices are upfront, visible, everything is labeled properly. So all the customer really has to do is walk up to the table, be like, all right, cool. This keychain is $12. This sticker is $3. I can buy 3 stickers for $6. Let me just get my stickers real quick. It just makes that process easier for them. So instead of the conversation being, oh, hey, how much is this? How much is that? How much is that? It can be, oh my gosh, I love this character. Or, oh my gosh, this is really, really cool. Or have more positive, more engaging conversations than just, oh, how much does this print cost? One pet peeve for me personally is the artists who have just a pricing catalog in one spot on their table, and then there's no pricing anywhere else. That to me personally annoys the ever-loving crap out of me, because it's just I want to know how much these items cost, but now I have to awkwardly stand in front, pretty much in the center of the table, because that's usually where some artists have put it, punch over and kind of read this pricing thing that's placed a little ways away. I might have to lean in just to see it, just to get the pricing of each of the individual items. And personally, that can be a little annoying, because it's just I don't want to be all up in your personal space. I don't want to have to lean over this table just to kind of know the exact pricing. Although it is convenient to have the pricing all in one place, I do think it is beneficial to have that pricing next to the relevant item. Or if you want to take that price catalog route and you don't want to label anything, have multiple copies of that price catalog. Say you have your stickers and keychains in one spot, put a price catalog right there. Say you have prints and mystery bags on one side, put a price catalog over there. So that way there's just more opportunities for the customer to know how much your products cost. Because if they have to ask the question, sometimes that's a little bit of a turnoff. I know, people are incredibly fickle. So another thing you can do for your table displays is having a QR code. There were a lot of different artists who had QR codes displayed at usually around some point of their table, just so you can kind of scan it, follow their socials, get more information about them. Having that QR code set up can be a really good thing, because in the event you run out of business cards, which most artists do run out of business cards, that QR code can be the alternative to like, hey, I'm out of cards. If you don't mind, you can scan my QR code, so that the customers who walk by can know who they're purchasing from. Now, one thing that does irk me about the artists who do have QR codes is the fact that their QR code is the only information you can get about that artist. Maybe they don't do business cards because they want to be eco-friendly and save paper, which I 100% understand, but I at least want to know what your brand name is. And if you have no branding on your table, no branding on your products, and the only way I can know who you are is by scanning your QR code, which also doesn't have any branding on it, that personally turns me off from want to buy anything from you, because that tells me you can't even bother to print your name on a piece of paper. In most cases, that's probably an oversight. The artists are just hyper focused on making sure that all of their products are good to go and that everything is displayed nicely on their table, and it could have just completely slipped their mind like, oh snap, the only way people know who I am is through the QR code. But if your QR code doesn't have your name on it, like at minimum, I just need to associate a name with a table. I can't associate a QR code with a table. That's just my personal pet peeve. But if you don't have your branding anywhere, how is your customer supposed to know who to come back to? There have been plenty, and I mean plenty of instances where I've purchased something from someone and I had no idea who I bought it from. So another thing with table displays is that some artists had a self-serve system while others had a, this is everything I got, look at what you want and then tell me what you want. Being able to kind of touch and feel the item can help confirm whether or not they want to buy that item. It's not a super huge deterrent if they can't touch the item, but it can be useful. I see a lot of artists do this with stickers, smaller prints, and just kind of like smaller loose items. It does make the checkout process easier, because instead of going, hey, can I get your Shishomaru sticker, your Inuyasha keychain, your Bakugo enamel pin, and your Pochita print, they can pick up the individual items they want and just hand them over to you and be like, hey, these are the items that I want to purchase. As far as larger items are concerned, like the bags or the prints and so on, the prints I feel are pretty straightforward. You can just keep them up there. A customer doesn't need to hold a print to know if they want to buy it or not. So like if you're selling more physical items like clothing or like a plush doll or like a Ita bag or something, have like a sample version that people can kind of grab and touch on to be like, oh, this crochet amigurumi is like really soft and plushy, or ooh, the material on this button-up shirt feels really, really nice. Them being able to kind of touch and hold those items are going to help solidify them wanting to buy it. As far as the other method where you just have everything up on display and they can just kind of pick and choose, have some type of identifier. I know I mentioned make sure that your pricing is good to go earlier, but also make sure that people can easily tell you what they want. It's almost as if you're going to a fast food restaurant. It's like, can I get a #1 with fries and a shake? Someone could walk up to your table and go, oh, hey, you have a keychain labeled A1. Can I get the A1 keychain? Or they have the option, if they know the character, they could say, hey, can I get the Demon Slayer keychain? One thing to take in consideration and why you should like have some type of labeling system for your items, people like to purchase things for other people as gifts. Prime example, I have friends who are into Chainsaw Man, but I'm not really familiar with the anime myself, but I recognize the characters. If I see the orange-haired guy and I go, oh, hey, can I get the keychain of the orange-haired guy? You're gonna look at me like I'm funny because you've got 3 orange-haired guys on your thing. You're gonna have to be a little bit more specific. But because I don't know that character, I can only identify him as the orange hair guy. Instead of me saying chainsaw guy or orange hair guy, I could go, oh, hey, can I get your J3 keychain? And you're like, oh yeah, J3, that's such and such character, got you. So having a label to help people order easier is another thing you could do. So talking about the tables that you can buy for this event, there were 3 different options. Option 1 was a 6-foot table. I think it was close to $500. No, No. People were saying $475. So yeah, $475 for a 6-foot table. You could get 2 6-foot tables. I want to say that one was maybe closer to $800 or $900. And then you could get a corner space that was definitely a little over $1,000. One thing that we discovered while at this event is that Megacon, surprisingly, is one of the few events that doesn't care if you share a table with someone. That's kind of nutty if you think about it. Now, these rules could definitely change from this point on forward, but as of right now, as of 2024, you can share a table. So $500 for a 6-foot table does sound like a lot of money, but if you can find another art friend who is willing to share that table space with you, now you only have to pay $250 per person. I'll let you figure out the logistics of who pays for what. While we're talking about display ideas, let's pivot to the advice of Ashes AR. She was an artist selling at Megacon and we found her by chance. Now, my selfish bestie got all the good information from her. And they talked about pricing and how to set up your table and just kind of casually left me out of the conversation. Rude. So I'm gonna let her tell you everything that she got from her.
Hola, I'm Indigo Fairy Craft, the selfish bestie who got all the good tea. Meeting Ashes AR was by chance and was my absolute favorite table. She was more than willing to give advice, and when she started, she couldn't stop. Advice number 1. Make sure to have items that are low, mid, and high cost. So basically, buyer psychology suggests that most individuals will be turned off from the higher cost items, but want to spend more than the low cost items. This will make the mid cost items more attractive to buy because to them, they are getting the best bang for their buck. Here's an example. Memberships. The first tier is the cheapest, but that second tier has better goodies and it's just $2 more. The highest tier is just too much for your wallet at the moment, and you don't need anything too fancy anyway. Advice number 2. If your work is detailed, organize your display so that the customer's eyes can rest somewhere. If you put multiple pieces of detailed art next to each other, the customer will be very overwhelmed and not know where to look, and that's when they start walking away from your table. If you leave blank spaces or less detailed spots on your display, the customer can rest their eyes while viewing your work. I personally loved this table because she had section where her detail art was placed in a way where it made my eyes roam, and then when I looked in another spot, it was less detailed. So I had actually a problem of what to pick because I liked everything, because there were parts that were detailed and some parts that were not. So this is actually very important. You don't want people walking away from your table because they're just too overwhelmed to buy anything. Now, advice number 3, if your work is simple, feel free to fill up your display with as much work as possible. If your work has simple rendering or more of a graphic design style, a full display should not overwhelm the customer. A good example is if you get an artist who doesn't put so much in the background of their pieces, or has like solid color plates. There should be plenty of spaces where the eyes can rest between browsing between each pieces of artwork on the table. Advice number 4, invest back into your artwork. Once you start making money from your work, start putting some of that money back into it. You can upgrade your supplies, print on better paper, manufacture higher cost products, and so much more. Advice number 5, slowly discount the products you want to get rid of. If you have products that are not selling well, you can gradually decrease the price to get rid of the excess inventory. Or if you want to add new products, but you need more space to store them, you can gradually discount products you don't plan on selling anymore to make the space. Here are some examples. Examples are bundling, mystery packs, and freebies. After a customer pays a certain amount, they will get a free bookmark or a small print, a sticker, etc. Make it feel like a gift. Advice number 6, practice setting up, breaking down, packing, and unpacking your display. It goes without explanation that you need to practice how your display will look. Take the time to figure out where everything will go so you don't have to take too long to set up when you go to the event. You want to plan how you're going to pack your display for transport as well. Will you pack a luggage or plastic bins? Plan on how you will store and transport everything as efficiently as possible. Practice how long it will take to set up the entire display, to break everything down and pack it up. Time yourself. You want to get a feel for how this process goes so you can be prepared as possible when vending at events. Bonus tip! Check your table stability. Check that the legs are the same height and they are not rocking.
So let's start with just how much I spent on everything that I purchased. So on average, I spent about $20 to $40 buying a small batch of items. So this includes a handful of stickers, maybe a keychain, maybe things that kind of fall into like that smaller, cheaper price range. I spent about $60 to $80 for the more expensive and higher end items. So that would be clothing items, larger prints, fancy prints, and things along the lines of mouse pads and like more thicker crafts and whatnot. And my most expensive transaction was about $100, but that included an art book, a playing card, an enamel pin, a keychain, and a print. That's kind of like the rough range of the things that I purchased, but let's get into some specifics. 11 by 14 and 11 by 17 prints got a price bump. They were sold for $25 to $30, where say 6 or 7 years ago, they were being sold for about $20 flat. I think this price bump comes from just the cost of manufacturing prints has gone up a little bit over time, and also there has been a higher influx in people buying smaller prints versus larger prints. So I can see artists kind of bumping up the price a little bit to compensate for the fact that those larger prints aren't being as sold. So you get a higher profit from that sale with the purchase of 1 or 2 prints than you will from the sale of smaller prints. All that being considered, adjust your prices accordingly. The one thing that was very common throughout this event was deals. Either, oh, buy 2 get 1 free deals, or 1 sticker will cost $3, but if you buy 5 stickers, it'll cost you $15. No, prints we usually buy 2 get 1 free, but you get my point. This is what's going to entice the buyer to want to buy more things. If they walk up to your table and they go, oh, I only want the 1 sticker, and you just, very politely nudge them and be like, I have a buy 2 get 1 free deal. So if you buy another sticker, you can pick 1 for free. This could incentivize them to get more stickers, to say maybe get a gift for a friend, maybe get a gift for someone they know who likes a specific character. And the same deal logic will apply to prints. Usually they'll suggest that, hey, if you buy 2 prints, you can get the 3rd one for free, or they'll do it to where if you buy like 3 or 4 prints, they'll discount like the last one, and so on. Think about what type of deals you can do to incentivize people to potentially buy a little bit more. So let's just spitball a couple of specific prices that I saw. If you don't want to think too hard and you just want to copy someone else's pricing system, go for it. Just make sure it works for your products and what you're selling. So I'd say the average size of a sticker is about 3 inches by 3 inches. And those stickers were sold for $3 on the lower end if it's just a simple matte sticker or a glossy sticker. And on the other end, we had stickers that were about $5, and these stickers usually had some type of glitter effect, holographic effect, weatherproofing. They're usually made of like a vinyl material. They're a higher quality. They're more of a premium sticker. When you're pricing your stickers, price them accordingly. As far as prints were concerned, like I said earlier, 11 by 14 to 11 by 17 prints were sold for about $25 to $30. Square prints that were 8 by 8 to 8 by 10, the average price I saw was $10 to $15. For 5 by 7 and things that might be a little bit smaller, I saw about $5 or $6. And then some people even sold like super teeny tiny prints for about $3 to $4, really. These prices are all subjective. Each and every single artist had a different reason as to why they priced it this way. For example, there was an artist there named Inkwell. Their pricing scheme was drastically different compared to what I just listed. They had teeny tiny little prints, maybe a 4x4, but those cost $10 versus the 3 or 4 I mentioned earlier. So what makes their prints different? I wish I had examples of their smaller prints. I only purchased 2 things from them, and they were on the bigger scale, which I'll get to in a moment. Their smaller prints, yes, they were 4x4, but they're these very intricate, heavily painted, beautifully detailed illustrations on this tiny little canvas, and they're $10. And you're thinking, oh, well, it's small, it should be cheaper. No, you also got to think about it's pretty much a fully rendered character illustration with the background on that little 4x4, so the price is justified. Also, I know from watching a lot of their content, they put a lot of effort and time and money into making sure that all of their products are produced on high quality paper. So you're not just paying for the beautiful illustration that's on there, you're also paying for that quality of paper that they invested in to make sure that their customers have a really good product. They had another print size that was about, I want to say it was 8 by 10, and those were $20. And you're thinking, whoa, $20? The average person sells those for like $10. But you also have to understand, the quality of the art, the intense technical detail of the art that's being put on these pieces, and also every single one that was in like that kind of $20 batch of prints also had some type of gold or silver foiling on it. You're paying for quality paper that it's on, the time, energy, and effort it took to produce the illustration in the first place, and you're paying for the effect of the gold or silver foiling. So again, where someone else who may have had rendered illustration put on an 8 by 10 and sold it for $10, they're justified in selling it for about $20 because of all the extra elements that went into producing that print. They had larger prints, and I think those were, I want to say they were $30 to $35, and the prints, I want to say 11 by 17, but I don't think they were. I think they were longer than that. And then they had some custom purses that they made. If I'm not mistaken, those cost $60 to $80. The mouse pad / game mat, which was about $60 or so, but it's like a fully realized mouse pad. Like, I can game on this, and it's a really nice material, and the print came across beautifully. So Inkwell has like a higher quality, a higher technical skill, a higher ability to just produce these greater pieces. So it just makes sense that they're going to charge a lot more compared to someone who might be just starting out, whose technical skills and skills in creating the pieces that they want may not be to the level that you would expect certain price points to be at. When it comes to pricing your items, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration. If you just want to turn your brain off, not think about it too hard, and kind of experiment with a couple of different price points in the dark until you find on a sweet spot, by all means, do it. These are just a couple of different factors that I noticed when people were pricing their items. Ita bags, I want to say that they range between the prices of $60 to $80. So here are some examples that I bought from Color Ren last year's Megacon. It was a coffin shaped Ita bag and a kind of heart bondage shaped Ita bag. They put a lot of craft and care into these products, from the location of the little latches to the fact that it comes with multiple straps, the zipped portion so that you can put like your display pins on. They even make little inserts for them with custom fabric designs. So when it comes to apparel, a lot of people not too many people sold t-shirts anymore. Like, of course they're an item that's sold, but for the most part it was a lot more sweatshirts, long sleeve shirts. I saw a lot of the collared button-up shirts. A lot of those were very common. Other apparel items were beanies, headscarves, bonnets, and so on. It seems like on average, people are charging about $50 to $60 for these apparel items, because it's not just a graphic that is slapped on the front of the shirt. It is kind of like a full print. There's designs on the sleeves, there's designs on the back, there's designs on the front, or it's a full pattern where the pattern is from front to back. So if apparel is a thing that you want to get into, they are a higher cost item. The one that I purchased was from Five Booze. It was this, I call it the Murder Ghost shirt, and it cost me about $50. So to circle back to deals, one thing that stood out to me at the one specific table that sold all the different enamel pins, they just had this deal where it's like, if you buy $40 worth of items, you can get a free pin. It just so happens that both me and my friend Sabrina were able to purchase enough items that either met that $40 threshold, or there was only like a $5 difference to reach that $40 threshold. What got me was that for Sabrina specifically, she bought up to about $35 worth of pins, and then they let her know like, hey, if you purchase up to $40, you can get a free pin. So what a coincidence, there was a basket of $5 pins sitting in front of the table that she could just kind of rummage through and pick which one she wanted, and then boom, she has $40 worth of pins and she just got one for free. So she bought one $15 pin, and then she bought two $10 pins, which added up to about that $35. Purchased a small $5 pin, got the $40 limit, got a free pin. So that's one deal that I saw that one particular table doing. I don't know how you would be able to apply that to your own things, but I figured I'd share it anyway. How do you convince a customer to go from only wanting to buy the $5 sticker to walking away with $40 worth of items? One way you can do that is with a stamp rally. A lot of artists have been running rampant with the stamp rallies, and that's not to be a bad thing. It's actually kind of a fun thing. So I have this stamp rally card. I think this is the only one I kept, or just whatever. And this one is cryptid themed. About 3 to 4 artists will get together. The idea is you want to participate in this stamp rally. All you have to do is spend a certain amount of money on items at each person's table, and once you've gotten like the stamp of approval from each artist, you will get a prize, a sticker, a keychain, a sticker sheet. Usually it's a sticker sheet so each artist can put their own bit of art on it, or each artist will have like their own individual print or item that they will give to the person who participated. So that is another way that you can increase how much someone buys. Now, if you're a beginner, I don't recommend you doing any type of premium item. You're starting out, you don't know how things are going to sell, you're figuring how to, prepare your items and do your customer service and figure out, what pieces are going to sell versus what pieces aren't going to sell. The people who make custom purses and bags, that's 6 months to a year into them starting their art business. People who make apparel and clothes, or like tote bags or whatever, that's people at least 6 months to a year to maybe even 2 years. So if you've done a lot of market research and you know what your customer base is going to buy, then sure, experiment, do the thing. However, if you're just starting out and your first thought was, yeah, I can sell stickers and prints, just stick with stickers and prints. Get a feel for what your customers want to buy. Do they buy more stickers? Do they buy more prints? Are customers starting to give you suggestions like, oh man, this would be great on a sticker book, or oh, it'd be cool if you made sticky notes, or it'd be amazing if you made notepads. Kind of work your way into those more expensive items, because this stuff is not cheap. Running your own business is not cheap. Stickers and prints can get up in price depending on what you do with them, but once you start adding tote bags, sticky notes, notebooks, t-shirts, sweatshirts, custom bags, purses, and everything else in between, it just gets more and more and more expensive. And if you're not making enough income from your business, or say that your art business is like your side hustle and you have like a day job and you're not making enough money from that day job to cover your business expenses and your everyday expenses, then don't look into creating these types of items yet. Nothing's gonna lose your money more than bad customer service. If you want to make money at artist alleys, you have to learn how to talk to people. Navigating people and understanding how to read people and talk to them in these environments is going to do you wonders for your sales. With such a large convention, you're probably wondering, what's it like even interacting with the different artists in the artist alley? I can tell you right now, it was very loud, especially during the crowded periods. You literally had to lean in and talk to the person at the table if you wanted to have something of a conversation with them. In the slower periods, it was definitely a lot more pleasant to interact with the artists at the tables. They're a little bit more engaged and they're able to kind of give their attention to each person who approaches them. And during the busier times, they're not rude or anything, by any means. Everyone was very nice and pleasant, but of course it's a little bit more kind of cut and dry. They're like, hey, hello, let me know if you have any questions, and then when it's time for you to purchase, you'll hop in, be like, I want this, this, and this. They go, okay, cool, cash your card, blah blah blah. And then on the other side, it's, hey, hi, hello, oh my gosh, I love that you have this one piece of artwork. They're like, oh my god, yeah, I'm a huge fan of the series. And then you get to gush about your favorite stuff after a while. Here's a little tidbit on pleasant customer experiences. Now, I'm only speaking on my own and my friend Sabrina's experiences, but we can both say that we were more inclined to purchase more from artists when we A, had a really great conversation with them, and B, we really like their artwork. For the example with Miss Kelly, she has a very fantastic graphic design work. We talked a lot about going to colleges and art schools and our classes and our professors. I felt like I was talking to a classmate from yesteryear, and it just felt great to talk to her. And to me, it's like, oh man, she's kind of like me. We're both artists. We're trying to figure this all out. I mean, I think at her point, she's already figured it out. So that made me want to support her. And because I'm already in love with her art, I bought a little bit of everything she had to offer. It's those positive customer experiences that people who will want to buy your art will come to your table. Miss Kelly was one of the artists who was very kind enough to answer one of your questions, and that question was, how do you eat healthier vending at these events, especially when you have to travel? I'm gonna let her answer that and then we'll be back.
So one of my top tips for eating healthier at conventions is obviously before you get here, ahead of time look up what's available. You can't always rely on food on the convention floor to be healthy. Having said that, when it is really busy, sometimes you can't get away or your morning will get away from you and you do have to just make do with what's at the convention. So like scope it out on the day you arrive and know like what's here, what's available, and if that's not something that works for you, check what's available on the way in. You know, like we don't always rate Subway, but you can get a healthy sandwich there. Stop at Walgreens, stop at CVS. There's lots of options that I think work really well, and food that will sort of, you know, it'll last a few hours if you bring it in the morning, so you've got lunch and it means you don't have to deal with the lunch rush of the show. But prepping ahead is one of the biggest things I can recommend. It's just knowing what's in the area.
Now, another positive kind of buyer vendor experience that I didn't necessarily have, but my friend Sabrina had, was with the creator Mojo97, coming back for round 2 in the video. Let's go. So she had this, I'm definitely gonna have to like fact check with Sabrina later, but she had this type of fruit, and apparently when you cut it open it kind of looks like a little booty. She had different iterations of that fruit on various merchandise. So she had it on a keychain, she had it as a lanyard, she had it as stickers, a sticker sheet. I want to say there was one more product that she had that specific type of fruit is, but I didn't know what the fruit was. But my friend Sabrina, who's Puerto Rican, she immediately knew what that fruit was, and then her and Mojo proceeded to bond over their experiences, you know, eating the fruit, talking about the fruit. Sabrina gushing over, oh my gosh, like people don't really make product of this, I've never seen this before, that's really awesome. So her and Mojo were really able to vibe over a fruit themed product that has cultural significance to the both of them. So that's another way that you can create a positive customer experience with someone. So maybe one of your products hits home for them, or maybe one of their products is fan art of a series they never thought they would see fan art of before. That can spark a conversation between you and that other person, and to make that person more inclined to want to buy something from you. Needless to say, my friend Sabrina came back the next day and bought all of the product that were that specific fruit. And circling back to the Kelly experience, my interactions with her were so pleasant that I actually went back to her the next day and asked if she wanted to participate in this video. I felt like she had a lot of experience and she would be a perfect candidate to share her answers to one of you guys' questions. So that's another thing that you want to take into consideration. It doesn't matter who approaches your table unless they're like incredibly rude and incredibly nasty and just incredibly disrespectful to your table. Be polite, be courteous, be kind of friendly. I'm not saying go out and be a social butterfly, but just be maybe a little bit more friendlier than you normally are. Like if someone walks up, you know, walk up to them, flash a smile, be like, hi, hello, let me know if you have any questions, let them know maybe if you have like a deal going on, and then just let them shop, do their thing. And if they go, oh my gosh, you like Bon Clay from One Piece, I like Bon Clay from One Piece, and then that could be the opportunity for you to like hop in and be like, oh my god, yeah, da 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 da, Bon Clay from One Piece, da 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 da, this character's awesome, da da da. And then next thing you know, you and a homie are vibing, and that person might want to buy just more than your Bon Clay work. They might want to buy some more One Piece stuff from you. You just kind of want to create a comfortable situation where the customer can either maybe have like a nice conversation with you. If not have a nice conversation, just be polite, be cordial with them, and you know, just answer any questions that they may have. So we can't be super gung-ho, we can't be super high energy all the freaking time. These events, specifically Megacon, will run up to 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So usually by Sunday, you're losing a little bit of energy. There were instances where, of course, towards the end of the day, as me and my friend are kind of walking around perusing the last few tables to see if there's anything else that we want, there were a couple of artists who maybe weren't as friendly. Not to say that they were rude or mean or anything, but you could definitely tell that the energy energy levels were super, super low. Of course, we're super understanding. We're like, yeah, you've been like at the convention all day. We get it. But if there's nothing that really caught our eye, we're just going to keep going about our day. In an idealistic world where that person was maybe a little bit more energetic, maybe not energetic, but maybe if the person was just like a little bit more alert, just pretending to be alert and aware, that may have incentivized us to want to purchase something. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're freaking selfish. If we didn't have that good customer service experience, we're not going to buy anything. I don't know, some of us are like that. Just don't force yourself into anything, but if you can flash a smile, be kind of polite, like people can feel the low energy vibes. But I guess in a way they can also kind of appreciate the fact that you're still trying to keep a good vibe going. I'm not saying be the hype person and, rile them up or anything, but you're super low energy, but you're just like, hey, thank you for checking out my table. Let me know if you have any questions. We've got a couple of deals and da-da-da-da-da. That's it. That's literally all you have to do. You ain't got to try to talk to these people unless they try to talk to you, especially when you're low energy. Maybe take a swig of water while they're doing something, while they're browsing your table. Just present yourself a little bit more, because at the end of the day, it is a customer service experience, and creating that positive customer experience is what's going to entice people to buy things from you. About that customer experience, don't be a salesperson. And when I say don't be a salesperson, I mean a person approaches your table and you're just like, hi, hello, we have these stickers and these prints and that thing. If you really like One Piece, we got stuff over here. If you really like Dragon Ball Z, we got stuff over there. We got these deals for this, that deals for that. Keychains are discounted. Buy my stuff, please. No one likes that. Now, one thing to take in consideration is that, some people might be talkative. Some people might be a little bit more social when they come to these events. But at the same time, you also have people who are incredibly socially awkward, people who are a little bit more shy, more soft-spoken, and maybe don't want to talk to you the whole time during their shopping experience. And one thing for sure, I know I can't do it. I cannot multitask. I can't talk to a person and peruse their items at the same time. I have to engage in the conversation, then peruse. So I guess if anything, as you start doing more and more events, as you start interacting with more people, hell, just more people in general, start to kind of learn how to read people in a way. And I'm not saying like, oh, this person is this height and this weight and they have this life experience. No. I'm saying if someone walks up to your table and they feel like they look kind of meek, maybe they're kind of like poking their head around a couple of things, maybe they're just doing whatever, maybe just, hit them with a hello, let me know if you have any questions, and then back up. Just let them do their thing. But if, maybe a group of friends walk up to the table and they're like, oh my God, My Hero Academia, I love this stuff. And you're like, oh my God, me too. That could be the opportunity to converse with them. So kind of learn how to read and interact with people. And that's going to help potentially boost your sales, because if that super shy person feels completely overwhelmed that you're just bombarding them with questions, or that could be too much for a particular person. So just kind of learn how to read the person, people who walk up. If they look like, they're a little bit more engaged, that might be the person to strike up a conversation with, or just kind of maybe ask them a question, or ask them if they have any questions, or maybe point them in a specific way if you think that customer would like it. Now, going back to the negative experience, one specific experience that I had at, I want to say Bold Missouri last year, was I wore a cute outfit. I had on a t-shirt with the Wednesday Addams on it. And when I tell you that there were at least, I want to say 5 different vendors in both the Artist Alley who kept pointing me to their Wednesday merch very aggressively. They're like, oh, you like Wednesday Addams? I've got this Wednesday Addams t-shirt. Or you like Wednesday? You're gonna love this Wednesday sweatshirt bucket hat invention that I made. On the one hand, they're just trying to help. They're just trying to point your direction in the thing that they think that you will like. But on the other hand, if I'm just perusing and I haven't specifically asked you, hey, where's your Wednesday merch? Don't go, oh, we have Wednesday merch over there. You have to be strategic when you do these kinds of things. If you see someone in a Power Rangers t-shirt, don't go, oh, Forget all the stuff you're looking at over here. We got Power Ranger stuff over here. You've got a Power Ranger t-shirt on, so that means you want to look at the Power Ranger stuff. You just made the assumption that because they have a t-shirt on of that franchise that they're just only going to care about that one thing. You can see how that can be a little obnoxious. So just kind of pick and choose your battles when you are guiding people towards specific items that you think they will like. I don't know, that one might be a little bit more complicated to read, but I figured I'd bring it up anyway because this is a specific situation that I've experienced when wearing that Wednesday shirt in particular, but I imagine that there are other people out there who've gone to conventions and maybe had a vendor kind of push them too hard in one specific direction. So just something to just be mindful of if that's something that you catch yourself doing. Most vendors took cash and card, and then some additional options are PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, and kind of like those peer-to-peer services in general. The easiest one to do is cash, of course. You would just get some money from your bank. Definitely bring ones because that's where the change starts to build up. When you're dealing with cash transactions, what I saw a lot of different vendors do have like a little cash box on them, or they'll have a fanny pack or something that they can keep secure and do the transaction. The second common payment method was taking card, and most people had Square readers to do card transactions. You can request a free reader from them, a small little adapter that you can connect to your phone, usually through the charge port, and it's going to enable you to take card transactions. So only if you're going to swipe it, and that gives your customers another option to pay for the items that they want instead of cash. Now, at these events, people do tend to take out more cash than they normally would hold on their person, just because they know it's going to be a little bit easier to pay in cash than it will be to pay with a card. As far as reader goes, you can get the free simple one from Square. You can pay extra money for different types of readers. They have a small one that's like no bigger than a sticky note, and it lets you take tap transactions and chip as well. They have a slightly bigger one, and this one has like a little screen on it. It's connected to like a base, and it lets you take swipe, chip, and tap transactions. Those are just kind of the main three that I saw throughout the convention. And for the people who were extra or have more bulkier items that they sell of their merch, they had the full-blown register or something close to it. One thing that I discovered that was pretty cool is that phones also have the capability of taking tap transactions. I did not know that. They'll just extend out their phone and be like, yeah, my phone does tap, and you're like, okay, and just tap the phone, and then boom. The third alternative that's a little less common is to offer PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and those similar systems to take transactions. I know for a fact that PayPal and Venmo have little switch options that tell you, is this like a personal like friend-to-friend thing, or is this a transaction? So you have that option as well, which I think puts people under like a certain level of buyer protection when they pay for things that way. I didn't see any signs in particular that said that people offer it that way, but I have noticed that at smaller events where maybe someone doesn't have a card reader yet and they only take cash, and this just enables them to have another way to take payments from people. One thing to be mindful of is that all of these things need a working internet connection. If your phone service goes down, the local internet goes down, or the Wi-Fi disconnects, or the connection just gets really, really bad, you're not going to be able to use those transaction types, or you'll only be able to use cash. Throughout the entire weekend for the convention, the connection was pretty spotty all over the place. I don't think it had anything to do with the building itself, but more so that there's thousands upon thousands of people walking through the halls in this area, in another area, in the panels, in the photo op, in the celebrity area. You know, everyone's got their devices, their hotspots, and everything going on. It makes sense that the internet connections went to crap. Some people had hotspots to try to help mitigate that. Another alternative is to buy the convention center internet. Now, this is completely separate from Megacon. They have no control over the distribution and access to the internet connection. This is specifically the Orange County Convention Center. If I am not mistaken, there were a few artists who had to pay for that internet just so that their devices could work. They said it cost about $80 a day for one device. $80 a day for one device. And who knows, the connection might be strong enough and it might be worth the investment, but I will let you use it at your discretion. That's just the internet price for that particular location. Oh, another thing, if you're gonna bring cash with you, please keep it safe, keep it in a fanny pack, keep it in a lockbox. Do not leave that money overnight. Bring it with you. Do not trust the security. Not to say that the security will steal something from you, but more than like just from the sheer scale of the event, how many tables they would have to watch over, there's a possibility that some of your things could get stolen, specifically the money bag, the cash envelope, the cash box, whatever. So be sure to bring that money with you when you leave the venue. Please, please, please do not leave it overnight. You will run the risk of it getting stolen.